Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. There is sort of a secret close to medium range meta in Warzone right now that not very many players are using, and probably for the reason that no one seems to be building this gun out correctly to make it the best it can be. So today, I wanted to show off and sort of highlight a mistake that a lot of players are making with what I would consider to be right now a secret meta in Warzone. As we go through it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, so feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. So if we look at Warzone ranked here, we can see all the most popular guns in the game. How many players are choosing the MP40? 9.27% currently. How many players are using the automaton? If we scroll all the way down to 25, we get the Vanguard BAR, which is a very interesting weapon. Obviously it's slow firing, but it's pretty heavy hitting. It also is somewhat limited by its magazine capacity, but when it comes down to it, the stats don't lie. This gun is actually very, very good, but you'll notice only 1.31% of players are actually picking this gun, and of those players who are using it, the KD ratio average for this gun at 25 again, 0.66, which is so much lower than the vast majority of all these other KDs of these top 25 or so weapons. So why is that, I wondered? Well, if you go ahead and you click on the bar here, it actually shows you which attachments are the most popular. And right away, I figured out what the issue was. The most common muzzle here is the Mercury silencer, which is giving you slightly better velocity, but destroying your damage range a little bit, which, spoiler alert, is not something the bar necessarily excels in. Everything else here is all right, but let's look at the muzzle here specifically. 87% of players who are using the bar are using the Mercury silencer, and they have a 0.39 KD ratio while using this. So that got me thinking, why is it like this? Why are players going for this setup, and could they be doing something better? Turns out you absolutely can. So let's look at true game data. As always, shout out to Tony for breaking down all the stats, testing it all, and getting it on the site so we can go ahead and look at this. We're gonna start with 250 health here because honestly, I feel like the bar is definitely a rebirth weapon for the most part. With 300 health, it might need some tweaks to fully compete, but specifically for a rebirth, which obviously is super popular right now, combination shots, which is the most accurate way to look at this, we got a handful of weapons. We got the bar using the recoil booster, which you don't usually see on most rifles, but you'll see why you might want to be using it here, alongside the 30-inch barrel and the 50 BMG mags, which are the go-to mags. I'm comparing this to something like the automaton, the most popular Vanguard rifle, the C58, a great heavy hitter, the Vargo, which of course is one of the top weapons in the game, and then the bar with the correct silencer. If you wanted to use a silencer, the MX silencer. I have no idea why Mercury is being chosen when it's not a good one to be using on the bar at all. Then same setup with the barrel and the magazine. And you can see here when we look at the TTK, the bar with the recoil boosters, the orange line, and look how good it actually is through 43 meters, which is, like I said, for rebirth, a lot of those fights, like that's the primary range for most of your engagements on rebirth are within that area. The bar with the MX silencer is a little bit slower here, and then it drops off and it's even more severe. Now, obviously past 43 meters, like I said, the bar is not really a ranged gun here, which is interesting because it's a rifle, but it obviously drops off severely, but it's also so good within those 43 meters. And curiously enough, even over range, using the recoil booster build, which by the way, the recoil is super easy, we'll talk about that in a moment, is still better. But through those first 43 meters, on this list at least, it's only losing to the Vargo. Of course, there's other guns out there like the AK that would also be in front of it here, but beating out things like the automaton by a fair bit, even the C58 by a tad bit as well, while also having easier recoil means you're going to land more consistent shots, and probably the bar is going to have an even higher TTK for you and be even quicker to kill because it's just easier to use. I found this to be so interesting because keep in mind, this damage drop off is without Mercury silencer. If you throw a Mercury silencer on there, it's going to drop off even sooner and be even less competitive over range. Huge mistake that I found in these loadouts for any players using the bar. Now, like I said, we can also look at the recoil plots here and just look how much easier the bar is. Obviously, our orange line here is that ideal setup. The light blue here is with the MX silencer on there. It's slightly easier with the MX silencer, but barely. So I don't really feel like there's a huge need to run MX silencer. I just wanted it on here for the sake of discussion, but recoil booster, clearly the wave. And look at how much easier this is than every other gun that we're comparing this to. The C58, way more horizontal movement and more vertical. The automaton, clearly more vertical. And the Vargo, also more horizontal movement. You can see the bar is just straight up. It's so easy to use. And if you build it out correctly, it actually can compete versus these other top meta weapons. So getting to that, how exactly do you build the BAR correctly to maximize its capabilities? Well, obviously, as we saw on the graph, we're going to go for the recoil booster. We're also going to go for the 30 XL barrel, better control, better velocity, also better flinch resistance and reduced scope sway. So it's going to be easy to track players in general there. We also want to be using the 50 BMG 40 round mags. Then when it comes to these other attachments for the optic, always very straightforward. Use whatever you're the most comfortable with, whether that is the 2.5 times optic, whether that is the 3 to 6 times optic, the Slate 3.25 times. Totally comes down to preference. I love the 3 to 6, and even though I'm not really using this a ton in those long range engagements where I'd be using the 6 times, 3 times to me is still a perfect zoom, as is 2.5 times. So I'd go between either of those. Those will work just fine. For the stock here, it sort of comes down to where you want to excel. You could go for something like the wire and try and give it that better movement speed because you're going to be using it in those medium range fights predominantly, and especially for rebirth, having that good mobility could be ideal. Sort of also depends on what you're pairing it with. If you have another sub, you're going to be using that for mobility. If you have it with a sniper, which in theory, this could actually be a very, very good sniper support weapon, you might want to be using something like the wire stock to give you a better movement speed. Chariot's always a good idea, better control. You'll love to see that. I don't really think these other three offer anything crazy. So to me, it's between wire and it's between the chariot. For the sake of close to medium range fights, though, I feel like wire is probably a good way to go. Obviously, it hurts your initial firing recoil a little bit, but we can combat that later. For the underbarrel, I absolutely feel like running hand stop is going to be the go-to here. Just nice and simple, easy to control as is. Ammo, of course, we are going for lengthened, no brainer there. For the rear grip, you could actually probably run stippled in this case because it is a slower firing weapon. Getting that recoil recovery and that initial firing recoil could actually be pretty solid. So I don't feel like stippled is a bad idea whatsoever. Also, though, polymer is never a bad choice. Getting that better control during sustained fire, you can never go wrong with that. So if I were you, I'd recommend trying out both of these and seeing which one you like the most. Both of them are great choices, though. Now, perk 1 to me, pretty easy. Hard scope, we're going to get that quick improved accuracy and control after we ADS. Then perk 2, of course, we're going to go for fully loaded. You could also go for on hand here, though, and actually get a better ADS, which in the case of this gun could also be very, very good. So now that I think about that a little bit more, both of those are also great choices too. But this setup in particular, you're going to find so much more success using the BAR if you're running this as opposed to whatever that standard BAR setup was that most players are using. So definitely change things up if this is a weapon that you're looking to use. And as the stats showed, this thing can compete with some of those top weapons, which I was pretty surprised by. Would highly recommend jumping into some gameplay and trying this one out. All that being said, though, that is going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here or if you have now already subscribed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in Call of Duty. News, updates, loadouts, tips. You're going to find it all right here. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.